Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teacher friends. I am so glad that you're joining me today. I hope you realize how much it means to me that you tune in each week. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. And if you are a longtime listener, I am so grateful for you and thank you for being here. I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you today, and I decided that since we're about 5 months into the year, I should go back and look at the things that I shared in my solo episode in January called 7 Things I'm Taking into 2025 and see how I'm doing with them. So today I'm going to give you an update on the 7 things I said I was taking into 2025, and I'm going to try to be as honest as possible about how they are really going. I'm a little nervous about this actually, because usually I ask the vulnerable questions to other people, but today I'm the one who has to get a little vulnerable. So here we go. Okay, the first thing that I said I was taking into 2025 was reading books on my phone. Now, I don't want to recap all the reasons that I chose each of these things, so you might want to go back and listen to the January episode if you haven't listened to it to get more context. But the brief recap on this one is that I like having a book downloaded on my phone that I can read when I have, 5, 10, 15 minutes waiting for a meeting to start or waiting for, a takeout order or whatever it is, instead of just mindlessly scrolling on my phone. The other nice thing is that the eBooks tend to be a little bit cheaper and I don't have to find a place to store them. So there are some other advantages to reading eBooks, in my opinion. So I've continued to do this one over the past few months, and I thought I would share a couple of books that I've read this year. The first book that I'm going to share, I actually got the hard copy, and I did it for kind of a silly reason, and I'll tell you what that silly reason is in just a minute. The book is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's a great book, and it actually answers a lot of the questions that I see posted in the piano groups on Facebook, even though it's not a book for pianists. The basic principle is that if someone wants to do something that you don't like or you don't agree with, you let them, just like the title says. So in our cases, if a family doesn't want to take lessons in the summer, or a student refuses to participate in your recital, or another teacher's trying to steal students from you, the book says that you let them. Now, that sounds very simple and maybe even a little harsh, but there's more to the book than that. Mel Robbins also talks about the let me part of the theory, which is about setting your own boundaries and principles and holding to those. So in the examples above that I just gave, if a family doesn't want to take lessons in the summer, you let them, but maybe you write into your policies that families have to pay a deposit for the fall to hold their spot. Or if a student refuses to participate in the recital, maybe you want to do some empathetic detective work to find out why, and perhaps it's because they're scared. Maybe you can give them opportunities to perform in lower pressure settings. Or maybe you invite them to attend the recital and just watch to see what it's all about in case they might feel more comfortable performing next time. If a teacher is trying to poach students from you, I think based on the book, you would try to take your emotions out of the situation, as hard as that is, and just double down on what you're doing well in your studio to attract high-quality students and retain them. And don't worry about what the other teacher is doing. So I said I would tell you why I bought the hard copy of this book. It's because I knew it was going to be so applicable to piano teachers and collaborative pianists who are my other audience that I wanted to make a YouTube video about the book. So I wanted to have a hard copy to hold up rather than just showing an ebook on my phone. That seemed kind of lame. So if you want to hear even more of my thoughts on the Let Them Theory book, you can check out the video on my YouTube channel. Now, the next book that I have to mention, I did read it as an ebook, and it was definitely my favorite book so far this year. It was Ina Garten's memoir called Be Ready When the Luck Happens. If you don't know Ina Garten, she's also known as the Barefoot Contessa. You guys, I loved this book. And I don't think I can even really explain why, but it was just so good. Reading the details about her early years trying to get her business started was so inspiring. And then later in the book, reading about how she bought an apartment in Paris and lived what sounds like the most charmed, magical life. It sort of felt like an escape, and I loved every page of this book. If you're looking for a book to read maybe on vacation or just curled up on the couch, I highly recommend Ina Garten's memoir. All right, here we are at number 2 of my list of things I wanted to take into 2025. And this one was kind of a 3-parter. I said that I wanted to continue to simplify and automate and also to use ChatGPT in a thoughtful and ethical way. I think that I've definitely continued to do all of these. Now, I'm going to be honest with you all. Systems are not really my strong suit, but I do love when things are automated. I've tried to be more intentional this year about putting things in Google Docs so that I can find them and reuse them. And in the collaborative piano part of my business, I have definitely started automating more things. Just to give you an example, in that business, if someone signs up for one of my free resources, like my Essential Wedding Pianist Guide, for example, they put in their email address and get the guide, and then I've automated a couple of emails that are sent to them that welcome them into my community and share a couple of other resources that I have available that they might like. Now, I have not gone crazy with this by any means. I know there are marketing gurus out there who will say you need to have automated emails going out every single day, and I do not want to do that. But maybe as a solo teacher, just to give you an idea of how this could look, is maybe you have a couple of welcome emails that you send out to new students, or maybe you even want to consider setting up your emails so that every 4 to 6 months, all of your families get a reminder of your policies. Just a couple of ideas of using technology to work for us without taking us, the person, out of the equation. And then as far as ChatGPT goes, I have definitely been using it more this year, but I'm still trying to be very thoughtful and careful with it. I don't want it to take over my business. I want to make sure that my voice and my stories and my thoughts are still infused in everything that I create. A lot of times I will, for lack of a better term, word vomit what I want to say into ChatGPT and then have it help me clean it up and sound more professional. Or I will start typing out the content and then ask it to add to it and help flesh it out a little bit more. Another thing that it is great for is helping me get to know my ideal customer more. You can ask ChatGPT to create a client for you, and it will give you all the details down to their age, location, where they hang out online, who they are following, and all sorts of things, which can then help you know more specifically what your ideal customer or client or student is looking for and interested in. It really has become like my mini assistant that helps me get unstuck. That's the other thing I use it for a lot. If you're ever in the middle of creating something and you just are feeling really stuck, it can be a great tool to get the wheels moving again. Of course, Top Music has an entire another podcast called the Top Music AI Podcast. So if you want to go much deeper on this topic, you can check out what Tara and her AI assistants are doing over there on that podcast. Okay, number 3 on my list was making videos, and I'm happy to say that I have continued making videos for my YouTube channel this year. I've heard people say that your first 100 videos are going to be crap, but you just have to power through. So that's what I'm doing. I post once a week, and I think they're getting slightly better each time, I hope, and I'm starting to see a little more engagement over time. I know that some of you are also making videos for YouTube, so my encouragement to you and to myself is to just keep going. The growth likely isn't going to be as quick as we wish it were, but it is growing and hopefully helping some people in the process. Number 4 is connecting with other piano teachers in person and online. And I will say that I don't see myself ever quitting this one. I love when I get to connect with any and all of you, whether it's in a Facebook group or on Instagram, or even better, in person. I actually had lunch with 2 of my piano teacher friends yesterday, and it's so helpful to talk to people who really get what we do. We all have a lot of the same struggles, and being able to brainstorm and help each other out is vital to our continued growth. By the way, this is a side note. After we had lunch, we decided to check out this new coffee place, and I had possibly the most ridiculous coffee drink I've ever had. The barista was really friendly and apparently a great salesperson. I was trying to decide between this iced lavender latte with cold foam and a honey latte. And she said in the most chipper voice, just combine them and then add some cinnamon on top. You'll love it. So I don't even know what she made me, but I took the first sip and said, wow, it tastes like a milkshake. It was really good. And honestly, I was thinking later, I think we could use a little more of that barista's attitude in our piano lessons, like encouraging our students to feel free to experiment, be creative, combine ideas, think outside the box, add a little cinnamon on top. What's the worst that can happen, right? So that was my lesson from my decadent coffee. But back to connecting with teachers. I would love to connect with you if you're listening to this podcast. And I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, people always say that, but they don't really want to hear from me. Or Rachel probably has tons of people who reach out and she doesn't need me bugging her. But honestly, that is not the case. Like I always say, you guys can reach out, but you don't. And I really appreciate when someone tells me about an episode that they enjoyed, or if there's a topic you want to hear more about, or a guest that I should reach out to. If you have ideas, I am always open to hear them. Probably the easiest way for you to contact me is just DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is @RachelAring. I have to say one more thing about Teacher Connections before I move on, and that is that I'm looking forward to meeting many of you in person at the NCKP conference in July. It is going to be 4 days of piano teacher madness. I should probably call it piano teacher excitement, but I can't wait. Okay, number 5 on my list was Hanon exercises. And I'm going to tell you guys that I have not been great at this one. I just have not made my own piano practice a priority in this season, and I need to change that. Sometimes I even think back to that podcast episode that I did in January, and I think about how I told you all that I was going to take my Hanon exercises into 2025, and I really have not done a great job of it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I just have to say I need to do better. And if your personal piano practice hasn't been great lately, I understand, and we can commit together to doing better going forward. Okay, number 6 on my list was boundaries. Ooh, why did I put that on there? This is a big one, and one that I will probably be working on forever and always. I guess it goes along with the Let Them Theory book that I talked about earlier. Letting people do their thing, but then setting up my own boundary of what I will tolerate or accept. So a boundary isn't something you impose on someone else. Rather, it's something that you put up for yourself, and then you have to decide what you will do if someone doesn't respect the boundary. I think boundaries for piano teachers could be an entire episode, but I am not qualified to talk too extensively about it. So if you know someone who should be on the show talking about boundaries, let me know. It's kind of a tricky topic and trippy sometimes too. If you're feeling that in some area of your life, I get it because I am feeling it too. So I would say that number 6, boundaries, gets a needs more work score, but I am trying. All right, number 7, I can't believe we're at number 7 already, was gratitude and manifestation. And I know this can sound a little woo for some of you, and I'll be honest, I've gone a little more to the woo side in recent years. And I really do believe in the power of gratitude and visualization, especially visualizing what we want our lives to look like. I go a little more into this in depth on the previous January episode, but this is a practice that I've tried to continue through the past few months. This is going a few months back, but earlier this year, my friend Tweena Wong, who was on the podcast last year in episode 28, talking about her music and magic journals, she came over earlier this year with our other friend, Amy Elmore, and we did a vision board party where we talked about our goals for the year, and then Tweena taught us how to make vision boards for ourselves. I'm pretty sure she talked about the vision board parties that she does in her studio on the podcast episode. So you can go back and listen to that one if you want to learn more about those. And I'm sure she would be happy to share more about them with any of you who are interested as well. I know she loves to talk about vision boards. So vision boards, manifestation, and gratitude are definitely going with me into the rest of 2025. The last thing that I shared in the January episode was my word for 2025, which is momentum. And I talked about how I had started several things in 2024, including this podcast and my digital course on accompanying, and that I wanted to see those things grow and expand in 2025. I'll be honest with you, the momentum hasn't picked up yet the way I would like for it to, but things are growing slowly. I just always want it to be faster, as I'm sure you can relate to. I want to encourage those of you who might be in the same boat, either with growing your studio or maybe you have a side business like mine that you're trying to grow. A coach once told me that if you just keep going, it will work out. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. If you keep posting, keep sharing, keep sending the email newsletter, eventually it will pick up speed. Someone else once said, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. We really shouldn't be comparing ourselves at all, but it's so easy to compare ourselves to someone who has been doing this 5, 10, or 15 years longer than we have. It's only going to lead to discouragement to do that. We are each on our own journey. So let's just come alongside one another and support and encourage each other. I would love to know how your goals for 2025 are shaping up. This is a great time to assess where you are at because there's still plenty of time left in the year to course correct if needed. Think of this as your opportunity to look back at the goals you set at the beginning of the year and see where you are at and what you need to do if you're just a little off track with some of them. I appreciate you being here and giving me the opportunity to be accountable. It was helpful for me to look back on that January episode and see what was in my head then and where I'm at now. So thank you for sticking with me to the end of the episode. I appreciate you and I want to support what you are doing in the piano teacher world. So reach out and let me know what you are working on and how things are going in your business. That's the end of the episode for this week. Next week, I'll be back with another guest talking more about studio branding and promotions. So be sure to join me. I'm Rachel Ehring, and this is the Top Music Piano Podcast. Thank you for being here.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.